Hey everyone, it's Matthew here from the SDGC talking to Kit Fox's Jongwoo Kim. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
We are here to talk about a little game that just launched, and by little I mean awesome, Lucifer Within Us. What can you tell us about the game and your role on it?
Yeah, so Lucifer Within Us is a unique mystery solving game about testimonies and exorcism. You play as Sister Ada, who is a digital exorcist in a futuristic theocracy in which people are getting possessed by cyber demons that compel them to commit murder. And my role in the project is the creative director. I prototyped the project, I set the narrative direction on the project, and created a case content and the core gameplay systems and so forth.
And how long have you or Kit Fox as a whole been working on this game?
Yeah, we started the earliest version of the project back in 2017, and so we made a 2D prototype just to test out, hey, like is this testimony timeline thing going to work? And based on the reception of that prototype, we brought it to full production starting in 2018, and yeah, like I guess so. Like full production has been about 3 years or so, but the full but like including pre-pro about 4 years perhaps.
Well, spoiler, the timeline system definitely came out well. We got lucky enough to have a review code and got to cover this game, and the timeline system was not only unique, but just like truly engaging. And it ended up being one of my favorite mechanics I've played in the genre as a whole. So great job on that. That's not so much of a interview question as it was me just gushing about how fun this game was.
Thank you so
So
much.
just virtual high five over there for you.
High five sounds good.
Nailed it.
Nailed
So
it.
I think one of the most long running questions of 2020, at least in the game industry, has been how has COVID-19 affected you all in your development, especially as you were, staring down the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, hit us by surprise, of course. And as a studio, Kid Fox has a culture of like just having a tight knit team culture, and so we are just so used to working together in the same physical space that the initial transition was difficult, and not to mention just like if separation from other people like it led to increased bouts of anxiety and depression and so forth, and we had to be conscientious about our people's needs over sometimes what might make sense otherwise for production, right? And so yeah, like there was a lot of adaptations we had to do to make working from home possible, taking time off like more so than during normal production. Like was like we assume, for example, that everyone basically has 4 day weeks instead of full 5 days, and so like we try to make the working as comfortable as possible for our team members so that we can take care of ourselves.
Oh, that's awesome because especially in this era of finding out just how bad crunch can be for
Yeah.
game developments, it's really refreshing to hear that kind of take on the situation. So, yay, Kit Fox.
Thank you.
As creative director, what would you say your favorite part of developing this game was?
Yeah,
Just
so like
you specifically.
very specifically, my favorite moment that sticks in my memory is when the exorcism system, was play tested for the very first time, and so because of the core mystery mechanics, not strictly requiring the exorcism, like we delayed the implementation of it somewhat, and even though in terms of the narrative and player experience, it is kind of the climax of the case in a lot of ways, right? And so, we had plans for how this exorcism worked, but for a long time, when we were doing development, we just had no idea if this was going to work. And so, I remember taking the build to the local co-working space for game developers and just on a playtest session. And the first time someone outside the team saw the exorcism, saw the demons being cast out from the soul of the culprit, and they were ecstatic. I was like, wow, we got it. We nailed it.
You did that. The exorcism, it felt like the culmination of hours of hard deduction and detective work, and you're like, awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, I'm a very eloquent person. When I like something, it's awesome all the way. So, since this game just came out and the genre as a whole is not the most mainstream or ubiquitous of them all, what would be your elevator pitch or the one thing you would highlight to people that might not know about this game to try and get them to give it a shot?
Okay, so it depends on the type of player you are, but for the mystery game players, I would say that Lucifer Within Us is a game in which you are Sherlock and not Watson. You are entrusted to lead the investigation yourself. You can scrutinize any part of the timeline, any part of the physical evidence, and accuse the person, try and accuse based on your own deductions. So it's a game that trusts you and empowers you as a player. For people who care a lot more about the sci-fi narrative, I would say that Lucifer Within Us has a unique techno-religious setting that asks questions about the nature of truth and subjectivity.
All right. Now the thing is, Lucifer just Within Us just came out last Thursday, so it's only been out for a couple days.
Yeah, that's right.
But how have you felt like the reception or the post-launch has gone for you all?
Yeah, I mean, we're still trying to process the feedback and whatnot. And of course, so on one hand, I feel that universally, I use that somewhat loosely here, but generally speaking, people have I really appreciate the content in the game and the systems in the game, the music, the art. There's been a lot of praise, and I'm really, really grateful for those, and I'm happy. Thank you. But on the flip side, it's also true that there's a lot of people complaining about the length of the game, and that they wish to see more of the game, and that's something that I really wish that I had the opportunity to do so, assuming everything works out. But yeah, we were super floored by the by players' feedback and the praise that we did receive, and we're trying to figure out what's next for the studio.
Well, how would you say the big draw of this game, the big gameplay hook would be the timeline system in terms of trying to figure out how collaborative was that effort to go from start of case to exorcism in terms of figuring out the critical path and how you would solve a case?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So how did the team work together to make that happen roughly? So the process was something like the inception lied in just the motivation or characters, or just in terms, hey, is this scene something interesting, is this conceit something interesting? And so for example, very, very minor spoilers, so it's the first case, a priestess dies in bloody explosion while receiving while in the middle of a ceremony that was supposed to enhance her powers. And so just that idea of it, and there being these two brothers who are craftsmen, forms the baseline for hey, should we move forward with the case or not? So we talk about the case at that point, at that stage. Once that's done, we really delve into the physical gray boxing and seeing, okay, is this an interesting level for the player to explore? Is it an interesting level for the test, the characters to move around and depict the testimonies? And then from there on, moves to a play testing, then finally a heavy art iteration phase as the final big chunk of production.
Well, you briefly mentioned a couple of the things people praise the game for, and rightfully so. And one of them I want to bring up is the art design, because one of the people that was at PAX East with you back when the world made sense and I first discovered Lucifer Within Us, I believe her name was Alex Bull.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and she is the art director, or
she's the art director and 3D artist for the project. Yeah.
So, without her here to answer this question, I was hoping you might have some insight. How did you settle upon such a stylistic and striking art design? Because it really stands out.
Oh, thank you so much for about the art style. Well, it was definitely a process of iteration, and it really ties into the various thematic aspects of the game. So, initially, when we went with the digital exorcist concept, we started off with a religious aesthetic being a primary drive, the primary theme. And so we went for with a lot of red, a lot of gold, borrowing from a lot of a Christian or a church symbology, while also incorporating some Illuminati-esque elements, like the eye, of course, the all-seeing eye. So that became the baseline, and then we added like elements of like sci-fi. So that's where the blue and like the like ether like technology elements come in. But like even with those two aspects, though, like players felt like, hey, like this doesn't really like evoke mystery quite yet. And so like we like intentionally like made the game like or a little bit from horror and like make the atmosphere a bit darker in order to imply like there's something sinister going on in the game.
I love the designs of the demons themselves. They were very cybernetically. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I got strong like Shin Megami Tensei vibes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like so, at least like for me personally as a developer, the Shin Megami Tensei series is a huge influence. I mean, like these days, most people only really consider like the Persona sub series, but then like the ideas in those games, they're really something else for sure.
Well, the other thing that I found that really stood out to me was the caliber of the voice acting in this game.
Yeah.
How did you go about even doing the casting? Because I feel every single person nailed their role. No one felt out of place.
Right. And so I guess a lot of credit goes to our audio director, Francois Villalobos, or FX. So he largely was working with some of the contacts we already had from our other project, Boyfriend Dungeons, like a voice cast. And for the most part, we try to work with the people who are already like streamers or like have like a certain like social media presence, so that we can collaborate to like help promote the game along with like having specific roles. I guess like as far as hey like why do the characters sound like appropriate, like why did the voice acting like succeed? I mean, I guess like it's part of like FX's expertise as far as like helping direct the voice actors when we were during the recording process.
Everyone crushed it.
Everyone crushed it.
Kudos. One of the more intriguing things about this game, especially in relation to the genre as a whole, is your decision to eliminate a game over state. There was no penalty for trying something or presenting evidence at the wrong time, which I felt refreshing. What however made you go that route?
So it's an interesting question, and like different games solve it in very different manner. Like if you look at Phoenix, right, there's like the arbitrary health bar, because the judge will kick you out if you don't answer questions correctly. And so like a lot of it just comes from my attitude towards ludonarrative distance, which is to say that hey, like why doesn't the game work the way that the narrative seems to imply it should? And so in that light, like it just didn't make sense for Ada as an exorcist to be punished for trying to figure things out or like being momentarily wrong about something. And so like I mean like I think in the ideal world, like as a fan of like some of the harder like some like like hardcore games like a Dark Souls series for example, like if I could like find a way to like give player feedback, hey, you're wrong for these exact reasons, like I think that would help like like mystery games move forward because it becomes more of a skill rather than something more nebulous, which is like I think the status of things right now. But like given that we weren't able to quite do that, it didn't make sense to punish the player needlessly. And what's going to happen to her anyway, right? Like
right. What are they going to do? Kick her out? She's the exorcist.
Exactly. So that's why it's the way it is right now. I think the other side of it that I appreciated over time was as much as like some people like because of like a somewhat like open nature of the game, like one of the design player was for the game to be player directed investigations. Like some people get to the end of the case very quickly and like not caring to really scrutinize everything. Other players will take their time, and some people really like chasing like red herrings for their own sake, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, like to lock someone out of reaching the end of the case because they were too aggressively trying to contradict a character just didn't sit right with me, as I saw playtest over time. So that's why there's no punishment in the game.
Well, I'm not going to say a bold choice, but I feel it's the right choice, especially for this game. Going on what you said earlier about the feedback in terms of the negative side of it,
yep.
I have a weird relationship with that because game length is it is on the shorter side of things,
yep.
But I feel like it's a testament to how good the game is that when it ends, you immediately want more.
For sure.
And your reaction is be like, why isn't there more? So my question to you is, when are we getting to Lucifer 2 Within Us?
I wish I knew the answer to that question, but it's the kind of thing that we're still talking about as far as what is the next step for the IP, and like what do we want to do with it.
No, this is a chicken and an egg scenario. You say right now it comes out in 2023, and then Kit Fox has to honor that.
Has to do it, because once it's
that's
out,
how business works.
That's exactly how business works. Yeah. It's the Peter Molyneux school of business for sure.
There we go. See, so you heard it here first, 2023. How did you personally celebrate the launch of this game? Because I feel it's a very momentous occasion for a developer.
Yeah, it was quite. I'm sorry. Maybe it's a bit of a boring answer because, the project took a fair amount of time, and the last little bit was as exciting as it was, also a bit exhausting. And so, on launch day, we all had a drink sent by the studio to each of our homes, and I had a
that's cool.
Yeah, I had a glass of prosecco, and just appreciating it for what it's worth. Today we did we had a bigger party in which we actually played through the older builds of the game. So I mentioned it started in 2D, so hey, here's the 2D one, and then here's a background. It was at this stage and this stage, and it's kind of looking at baby photos in a sense, right?
Are you ever going to release those as little just Easter eggs?
That's an interesting question. I think they're too broken for it to be enjoyable by a lot of people who aren't developers. But if there's interest, then I don't see why not.
That's just cool. But that's awesome. At least, because you can't have the traditional launch party, obviously, for very blatant reasons. So it's really cool that you still found a way to bring everyone together for that.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely a bonding moment, or almost it's kind of a closure for the project to see hey, this is where we've come, and we were super proud to see everything that we've done for sure.
Do you feel like you actually have some free time now, or is that a bit?
No, I honestly I think what's likely next for most of the team members is to take a bit of vacation and ground ourselves and think about what's next.
Well, good. Everyone deserves some downtime to help avoid burnout.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I want to end with a way for you to plug yourself and Kit Fox as a whole. How can people follow you or the game or the company on social media to keep tabs on this and what's next?
Yeah, probably the best way to follow us would be just on Twitter at kitfoxgames.com. Sorry, not .com, at kitfoxgames. And any further news about Lucifer Within Us will probably come through that channel for sure.
So it's crazy to think that Kit Fox news can be found at Kit Fox Games.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Wild concept. However, I do think that you might have an inkling of what's coming next, but I do like to end our interviews on a final question. It's a little tricky. Yeah. It gets to the real core of who you are as a person, but in your heart of hearts, if you have to choose, cake or pie?
I'm feeling a bit of deja vu here, but I think I'm going to lean towards cake. And I still think ice cream cake is
it's the king of cake.
King of cakes for sure. Yeah.
I just had my birthday earlier this month, and I
congratulations.
Still get it. Oh, thank you, but I still get an ice cream cake every year because I am a child, and I do not care. So I feel you when you say ice cream cake is the reason. So
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. This is a special game for me because it's been on my list since I found it at PAX East. So to finally see it come out and get a chance to talk to you has been just delightful.
And it's been an absolute pleasure for me as well.
Well, I hope you enjoy your downtime and get some rest and relaxation. Play some games that aren't Lucifer Within Us. And you have a great day.
You too. Cheers.